Hello everyone! In this video I go through all the maps and explain the various techniques used to complete them with a solid time. The timestamps for each map are in the description, so I hope you'll find something useful here. Good luck on the tracks! Steer a bit to the left at the beginning of the downhill for a tighter entry. Thanks to the previous part, you can take this turn with a much more inside line. Make sure to avoid airtime on the uphill and continue driving on the inside afterwards. Drive up the grass hill early. This should enable you to gear up to the 5th gear just before the tarmac transition, as well as give you some extra time to prepare for a very inside line. At this speed, steering through the transition shouldn't lead to sliding out, so go through the corner full speed to gain as much speed as you can with a wider line. Continue steering to climb up as early as you can. This should enable you to straighten your car before the transition. It's important as you want to start steering fully only after transitioning to the tarmac, which lowers the chance of sliding out greatly. Steer to the right on the uphill to minimize airtime. Ideally, you would want to get a very inside line and subsequently get the boosters a bit earlier, but good entry speed with a wider angle should hopefully give you a satisfactory time too. Steer to the right on the inside and make sure to avoid steering when your car gets up to the 3rd gear. After that, steer to the left to drive up with a middle line. Start steering to the right early to prepare for a very outside line, which will help you preserve your speed greatly. Start steering left before the chicane to use a very outside line once again. Stay on the very right side on your way to the finish. Drive down to the right side to prepare for the first bobsleigh turn. Entering the turn from the right side, angled a bit to the left should stop you from getting airtime as well as help you stabilize between the red lines. Rotate a bit to the right after exiting the turn to enter the next one early. On the bobsleigh turns, you should aim to counteract the car movement and start steering fully only after it stabilizes completely. Steer a bit to the left early to avoid any airtime on the uphill in preparation for the next turn. Steer to the right when exiting the turn to prepare for a jump in the middle. This will make finishing much safer compared to staying on the natural left side. Drive down angle just a bit to the left to enter the first checkpoint from the very right side. Thanks to the previous step, you can cut through the penalty grass and get an inside line. Transition from the middle to reduce airtime and drive down late for the same reason. Start steering to the right early to get a very inside line. Transition from the middle to get an inside line afterwards. Drive through the turn with a very low line as you don't need to preserve speed with a high line. Steer to the left immediately at the start to enter the ice downhill from the left side. Drive straight towards the right side of the next corner. This combined with the previous part will give you the shortest route in this section, as well as help you climb up thanks to the tarmac part. Drive up towards the left side. Once your tires the ice, you can steer to the left for a shorter line. Enter the downhill from the middle and take a wide ice slide. Drive up to the left, make sure not to touch the small snow patch near the finish, as it will slow you down greatly. Steer to the right on the inside. Start steering to the left early for a high line in the turn. Start steering fully to the left just as you are crossing the checkpoint. If you have a problem fitting in the turn, try steering a bit later. Start steering fully to the right early to fit in the entry of this long turn. Counter steering closely to the chicane should help you fit in the exit of this turn. Maneuver between the chicanes, trying to stay closely to the middle. Steering fully and switching your directions quickly helps, but you may also release a bit at the start if you are really struggling with it. Enter the turn from the middle to use the whole space of the turn. Don't stop steering fully unless you're going to hit the inside border. Start steering to any side early to avoid the hole. Drive down on the inside of the turn. Start steering to the left early and climb with a middle line to avoid any airtime. Steer to the right early. Exit the ramp from the left side to prepare for the wall ride. Try to enter it similarly to me, as going more inside will cause you to exit too late. This trajectory should also keep you naturally angle your car and keep some speed thanks to it. Enter the tarmac from the middle angled a bit to initiate a slide. This will make entering the loop from the left side afterwards much easier. Ideally, you would want to get a speed slide for the entire duration of the turn, but the tightness of the turn makes it hard. Steer from the left to the right side of the loop to save the most speed. Enter the wall ride very late and let your car naturally go to the finish line. Drive down and stay on the inside of the next two corners. Drop down from the right side angle a bit to the left for a smoother landing. Start seeing fully on the engine off block for a shorter route. Approach the turn from the left side and jump above the road border angled to the right. Keep steering upon landing, trying to get an inside line without touching grass. Drop down from the right side angled a bit to the left, make sure to air brake. Thanks to the previous setup, you should be able to drive through this turn full speed and accumulate extra speed for the next section. Stay on the left side of the loop to prepare for the next turn. Steer to the right with a very inside line. For the trick route, angle your car straight on the right side of this block connection. My input visualizer doesn't show this, but you want to release your gas in between the jump and the booster to level your car earlier. Now try to hit the very top of the grass hill with your front wheels to get a massive speed boost. The previous setup should make you avoid any trees, and driving straight should lower your chance of launching in a weird direction. This trick is doable if you have the patience to experiment with when to release gas. For the safe route, jump to the right side and hover above the flat part into the finish. Drive down on the inside of the turn. Steer to the left from the outside and drift early. This will make gaining speed after the exit easier and it's used on pretty much all of the turns on this map. So instead of rebuilding myself, I will focus on some other smaller tricks. Drop down to the right side to land earlier as well as prepare for the next drift. Drop down to the right and air brake for a flatter landing. During the final drift, make sure to get an outside line in the corner to reduce airtime. Simply steer to the right closely to the corner without any drift. Drive down on the inside. Jump towards the middle of the checkpoint and a bit to the left to reduce airtime upon landing. Steer to the left early to minimize steering on the grass part. Drop down and drive on the inside. Drive down avoiding any airtime and jump up to the middle of the black surface turn. Jump angle to the right to get an inside line in this corner. Jump towards the arrow sign and air brake late for a somewhat flat landing with your left tires. Steer fully to the left immediately upon landing to drop down early. Continue steering and drift a bit if needed to fit in this final turn. Drive down angle slightly to the left, making sure to stop steering on each gear up. Start steering more to the left, aiming to get a high line in this turn. This will make exiting it much easier as well as help you with accumulating speed. Drive down from the inside, trying to minimize airtime on the downhill. Steer to the right and jump above the sand to avoid a slowdown. Approach the turn from the left side and take it with a very outside line. Feel free to release a bit if needed. Since this is, in my opinion, the hardest trick in this track, just so you know, taking the turn from the middle should still grant you the average time. Jump out of the slow-mo block using the bump caused by this transition to the flat part. The further outside you enter, the earlier you should land at the higher risk of accidentally touching the slow-mo block. Steer to the left early with a middle to outside line. Steer to the right on the outside to avoid airtime. Drive through the loop on the left side for the shortest route to the finish. Initiate the jump from the outside for more space to rotate your car towards the higher platform. You should also release gas accordingly to land earlier and save some time thanks to it. This is the core technique of this track, so I'll only explain the other ones from now on. Approach the drop down with a middle line to fit inside of it and exit it on the outside. You may need to release a bit here. Drop down on the right side for a shorter route. Drop down angle to the right to drive down the turn early. Try to reduce airtime and stick to the left side for the best entry for the next jump. Drop down angle to the right for an inside line afterwards. Steer fully to the right to jump up to the next platform. I like to trade some time by getting a bit higher than usual line to avoid crashing into the turn itself. Continue steering upon the landing to get to the finish line faster. Drive down on the inside. Transition to the left side of the bobsleigh and try to stabilize in between the red lines. Take the turn from the right side and stabilize similarly to the previous turn. Enter the turn early and take a bit higher line than before to make stabilizing on the exit easier. Jump towards the arrow sign angled roughly straight. Steer to the right early to prepare for a very inside ice slide. Tap the brake accordingly to tighten your line. Drop down in the right direction and wiggle right to left upon landing. This should help you get a higher line and stop you from slipping out in the turn. Don't fight this weird angle and just let your car go to the finish line. Drive through the middle to reduce airtime a bit as the line required to avoid it completely is way too long. See to the left on the inside. Drop down angle slightly to the right and drift a bit upon landing to fit inside the turn. Start seeing to the left early and try to drive through this turn with an outside line to reduce airtime. Drop down late and a bit to the right. Drift and release a bit to fit in the turn. Enter the turn from the inside. Transition to the checkpoint from the outside to avoid airtime. Transition to the dark grass from the middle and steer to the right for an inside line. You would normally want to avoid steering on this penalty surface, but the downhill reduces its effects a lot. Steer to the left on the inside and slow down your car as you transition to the tarmac. This is important as it will enable you to go full speed from now on. Transition to the flat part from the left side to reduce airtime. Drive on the very right side to avoid airtime once again. Steer to the left on the inside and drive through the turn with a low line. Simply angle your car straight and correct it to that position if needed to shorten your route. Remember to air brake in this drop down. Drop down and continue steering right on the inside. Steer to the left and flick to the right just before the drop down to angle your left wheel downwards. This will make you land area without any speed loss needed to achieve it. Steer to the right with an out-in outline to avoid any need for slowing down. Air brake on the two drop downs. Steer to the left area to prepare for a low line. Thanks to the previous setup, you should be able to get to the middle quickly, which enables you to steer to the left and cut through the whole loop completely. This requires some precision, but it's perfectly replicable after just a bit of practice. Steer to the right area for another low line. You can start seeing to the right earlier than me for a shorter route closer to the middle. Angle yourself to the left on the downhill to avoid any airtime. Climb up from the outside and make a seemingly awkward jump to the left. You can slow down a bit to ensure driving down early. Try to avoid steering when your car gears up to the third gear when going to the right side. Release a bit and jump to the left side for a smoother landing on the other side of the hill. Steer to the right to jump towards the checkpoint. Climb up trying to avoid airtime. Drive through the bump on the very left side to land earlier. Approach the downhill from the right side and drift to get an outside line in the turn. Climb up from the outside for a flatter jump angle towards the next checkpoint. Start seeing to the right early and slow down a bit to fit in the drop down. Drive through the bump on the very right side to set up for an inside line in the next turn. Start seeing to the left halfway to the turn and slow down to take this turn with an outside line. Jump towards the arrow sign, angle a bit to the left to land on the downhill before the finish line. Drive down on the inside and try to stop steering for a bit when your car gears up to the third gear. Transition to the grass and drive closely to the fence to make turning easier. Steer to the right early for a shorter route. Steer to the right, going fully inside is faster, but a slightly wider line should make exiting the turn easier. Start seeing through to the left just as you leave the lighter grass for an inside line. You can start seeing to the right later for more speed, but it makes climbing harder. Exit the tarmac and immediately start seeing fully to the right. This is important as an outside line will make you significantly slow down. Continue the inside line when driving down towards the checkpoint. Start seeing to the left early to drive next to the border. Change camera 1 if you are using it to make the downhill easier to navigate and enter the tarmac early from the very left side. This gives you a lot more speed compared to entering the checkpoint directly from the grass part, so use it. See to the left and stop doing so when your car lines up towards the bright grass road to reduce slowdown. Approach the turn from the left side and see to the right early to fit inside it without the need to slow down. Avoid driving into the middle wall on the left side and drive straight to the finish. Steer to the left immediately for an inside line. Start steering to the right early and drift a bit to transition to the inside. Using the bump on the right side, jump angle to the left for a smoother landing. Transition to the right side just as you're passing the yellow signs and drift a tiny bit to do so. Transition to the left side and drift to fit inside in this turn. Start steering just as you cross the first red gate to drive down with an inside line. Drive down on the very left side. Steer to the right early to drop down to the inside. Try to minimize drifting as from now on the map gets faster and slowing down is more punishing. Try to minimize this little airtime and steer towards the inside afterwards. Drift very early to fit in this turn when out-in outline which maximizes the exit speed. Drive on the right side to reduce airtime. Start drifting just as you're crossing the checkpoint. Drift to the right early to once again maximize your exit speed. Transition to the right side without getting any airtime to prepare for, ideally, an inside drift. Avoid airtime when driving up to the middle. Drift to the left side from the middle. Sacrifice your speed as needed to correct your line and ensure that you don't fly out. Jump to the right side of the normal finish. You may flick a bit to the right to angle your car more straight to help do so. Steer to the left area to enter the grass part from the inside. Drive straight towards the right side and start wiggling after gearing up to the 5th gear for some extra speed. Steer to the left and drive through the turn with a high line. Enter the loop from the middle for a natural speed transfer without much need to correct your line. Enter and exit the loop from the left side. Enter the wall right area and drive through it with a slightly above middle line. Steer to the left and try to stabilize your car under the red line, a bit similarly to a bobsleigh turn. Enter and exit the loop from the middle. Steer to the right area to enter the loop from the inside, which should help you transfer your speed. To maximize your speed transfer, drive high to low line twice in this turn. It's one of the most unusual turns in this campaign, so I hope that the footage speaks for itself. Enter and exit the loop from the middle once again. Drive through the turn with an above middle line. You can start seeing to the right earlier than me for a shorter route. Jump to the finish from the left side. Steer immediately to the left to drive down on the left side of the post to prepare for the next turn. Start seeing fully to the right just after your car gears up to the 3rd gear. This section is doable at full speed, but if you aren't great at precision maps, releasing a bit won't slow you down dramatically. Steer to the left and tap the brake just after you cross the engine off block. This is important as it will slow you down enough to fit in the upcoming turn. Start seeing fully to the right at the beginning of the chicane to fit on the inside. Climb up the left side and drive a very inside line afterwards. Correct your line not to hit the wall of poles and continue steering fully to the left. The more speed you have, the less space you will have for this transition, but remember that it can be done without braking. Don't steer to the right very early to avoid airtime. Steer to the left with an inside line and angle your car straight afterwards. This is the best place to change camera 1 if you're using it, unless you want to drive the upcoming downhill section blind. Start steering to the left with an inside line to disable the engine off early thanks to the checkpoint. Drive down to the right side to reduce airtime and gain extra speed to get through the reverse booster. Steer fully to the left early for a shorter route. Start steering fully to the right early. This is the place you can go back to camera 1 if you prefer it. Transition to the grass part early and slide on top of it on the inside. Make sure not to accidentally touch the black part, as it will suddenly give you extra grip, which will probably make you crash. Climb up the engine off part on the inside. Release gas just as you cross the no brake block to enter the next turns from the inside. Steer immediately to the right to prepare for a shortcut. Steer to the left early to climb up the hill on the grass. You are now driving the very sensitive rally car, so I recommend using Action Key 3 no matter your input device to make sliding up much more difficult. Jump up to the right side using a grass hill. Start steering to the left early and release a bit if needed to fit in this turn with full grip. Jump to the middle and flick to a side to stop your car's rotation. Jump towards the arrow sign and drive with an outside line afterwards. You can disable the action key now, as the desert car sees much differently. Instead of gentle turns, you should aim to steer using a tapping motion so your car doesn't tip over. Steer to the left with a middle line. Go from right to left on the loop to save the most speed. Start steering to the right early, making sure not to tip over in this long turn. The Stoker is the simplest one of the trio, as its steering sensitivity is between stadium and rally cars. This means that you aren't forced to use a specific action key, and it shouldn't slide unless you go above about 80% turn radius. C to the right on the inside. Transition from the middle and C to the left on the inside afterwards. I like to release a bit here to help keep my grip. Drop down from the middle and flick to a side to lock your rotation. C to the left. You should go more outside than me to avoid a tiny slide from the booster, but don't worry about it unless you really know what you're doing. C to the right on the inside. Transition from the middle and C left on the very inside. C to the left on the very inside without touching the water. Drop down to the right side of the row. Start seeing to the left area to drive through the turn using the whole space available so that you don't need to artificially slow down. C to the right area and enter the tarmac road from the left side. Drive down from the middle to reduce airtime. Drift from the outside area for the shortest route. Do the same thing again, this time avoiding airtime as an addition. Prepare for a left lane in the uphill and avoid staying on the grass to reduce slowdown. Jump angled a bit to the right to set up a middle line in the rest of the section. Drop down to the water from the left side and steer to the left afterwards to fit in the next turn. See to the left from the right side area to fit in the chicane. Drive down to the left side and drift to the right afterwards to fit in the upcoming turn. Transition to the left side on the dirt part and steer to the right area afterwards. Drift to the left area from the right side to ideally get an inside line. Water bounce to the left side late. Drive through the turn with a middle line. See to the left before the checkpoint to ensure that you enter the sound part straight. In this section you want to avoid sliding at all costs as it will slow you down tremendously. To do that, avoid steering fully if you can and even release a bit if you don't feel confident. Drive down to the left side and drift even earlier than me to fit in the turn. See to the left immediately to drop down to the plastic downhill. Drive down to the very left side and wall ride the turn, steering fully to the right for the most speed in the corner. Jump to the left side of the road ahead, angled in the same direction. Drive up the plastic uphill from the inside and steer to the left area to drive on top of the tarmac turn. Flick to the right before dropping down for a smoother landing. Jump up to the plastic uphill from the tarmac. Make the transition to the wall ride smoother by driving with your left wheel on the plastic border just before doing so. Drop down angle very much to the left. Jump up, rotating to the left and release to land on the top platform earlier. Air brake and drive from the inside afterwards. Stop accelerating and drive from left to right to control your car on the uphill and reduce airtime afterwards. Drop down to the left immediately after crossing the checkpoint. Jump from the middle, angle to the right. Jump up to the road in front. On this plastic section, see fully to a side area to fit in the chicane. Jump towards the next checkpoint. Wall ride the plastic border and steer to the left immediately afterwards to climb up with a lower gear. Keep steering not to get a gear up and jump to the right side, angle to the left. Enter the wall ride led and steer left to rotate your car for landing. Ideally, you would want as low as line as you can, but don't overdo it and choke your run. Jump towards the finish line. Rotate your car only if you're worried that you won't make it. Drive on the right side of the sausage. Transition to the left side lane without any airtime. Exit the ramp from the middle and start holding gas and brake immediately after doing so. This will make your car go down without changing your rotation. Because of that, when releasing the brake just before the second rig checkpoint, you get a massive speed boost. This technique is perfectly replicable after some training, but you can ignore it, which may cost you up to about half a second, a lot for this difficult track. Steer to the left on the inside upon landing and drift to tighten your line. Release a bit to rotate your car early for an ice slide, because getting a very inside line gives you a lot. Ideally, you can even get a bit of airtime here to reduce the effects of penalty grass. Make sure to avoid any airtime in this section. Drift to the right a lot to fit in this turn. Leave the ramp with your left wheel area for a lower line. Leave the ramp with all your front wheels at the same time on the left side and immediately stop accelerating until your car roughly lines up with the ground. While doing so, angle it to the right so that you can drive straight to the very right side of the tarmac transition. Steer fully to the right. Wood makes you steer more and should stop you from crashing the left border if you get a solid entry. Approach the downhill from the right side and drift very early to fit in this turn. Drop down angle to the right and drift to enter the next checkpoint early. Flick to the left just as you're exiting the final ramp from the right side to hover towards the finish. Good luck in getting this, in my opinion, the hardest medal in the campaign. Drive down the tarmac road on the inside. Start seeing to right early to slide through the plastic turn with a shorter line. Transition to the wooden part in between the poles and approach the next turn from the left side of the wall in the middle. Steer to the left area to fit in the turn. Jump to the grass part angled a bit to the right from the middle. Transition to the flat part from the middle and drive with an inside line afterwards. Get to the bright grass area to reduce slowdown. Jump from the right to the left side up the hill. Drift to the right area from the middle. That little airtime at the start helps you rotate too. Drop down and jump angled a bit to the left afterwards. Drift to the left to correct your line. Try your best to minimize doing so, as this engine of section punishes speed loss more than usual. Climb up the turn on the very left side to accumulate extra speed. Transition to the plastic instead of going directly into the water to avoid getting a water bounce. Steer enough to enter the checkpoint from the right side. After that, steer fully to the left to get an inside line, as a more outside line may make you lose ground contact and lift you up. Climb up with a middle line in this section. Steer to the right later than expected to get a more outside line, which should help you set up in the next part. Start seeing full to the left before transitioning to ice and brake on it early for a tight ice slide. This is important, as a normal slide is too wide and will either make you crash or go for the penalizing snow. Try to drive straighter than me after leaving the ice, as sliding on the tarmac slows you down. Drop down the middle and remember to air brake. Jump towards the bobsleigh turn from the middle and try to stabilize in it with a low line. Let your car naturally go to the left side.